Today we are joined by Mariam Atash, a well-known social entrepreneur, attorney, philanthropist, and a proud Afghan. Thank you, Ms. Atash, for joining us for the interview today. My first question is, when did you leave the country, and what are your earliest memories of growing up in Afghanistan?
I actually left right after the Soviet invasion, and my father was getting his PhD at Florida State University through a scholarship program. So we left in the early days. My grandfather, Zariza Khan Nuristani, was imprisoned, and our family here went through a lot of struggles. But we were lucky to go to the United States at a young age and to become educated there. My memories of being in Afghanistan as a child were having a lot of family close by, to be able to do things with my cousins on a day-to-day basis, playing in the outside and going on the street to Dalaman. We lived on Dalaman Road, so we would go up by the palace sometimes. And just a lot of memories being with family.
A large majority of Afghans today, they're settled abroad, mostly in Europe and US. How difficult is this cultural adjustment, especially for someone who's coming from a third world country like Afghanistan?
I think Afghans are pretty flexible people, and they are able to learn languages really quickly. So I think they've done really well to adapt to a lot of different societies and cultures. I mean, we have our cultures that we take with us, our food, our religion, our family values. But I think Afghans are, understanding of the culture that they're residing in. They tend to do well in taking advantage of education and work opportunities wherever they go. They want to get ahead. They want their children to become educated. So I think Afghans overall, as a diaspora, are pretty successful in education, business, for the amount of resources they had and the amount of time that they've been abroad.
As an Afghan abroad, as an Afghan who's living and working abroad, have you faced any sort of racism or prejudice or any sort of stereotype abroad as an Afghan?
I think being an Afghan woman, people tend to be understanding, and they see that women in Afghanistan went through difficulties and challenges, so they identify with that. Sometimes, you don't want people to feel sorry for you. Afghan women are very strong, and we have a lot of pride in who we are. I haven't personally experienced it, directly, but I've known many Afghans who have experienced racism in a way that people think that they are affiliated with terrorism or that Afghans support terrorism, which is not the case, and they have a hard time distinguishing between the Afghan people and the terrorists or extremists that might exist. And I think it's mainly because of that, and I think unfortunately the men seem to have it harder because of the negative image of these groups in Afghanistan.
When you come across the reports about Afghanistan in media, when you come up with negative reports, like for example, the violence against women in Afghanistan, how do you react to those reports? What's your reaction?
Of course, I get upset and I get angry at some of the issues that I know that the government can do something about it, but it's being ignored. Then I get angry for the people because I think that they deserve better. But I think Afghans need to help be part of the solution, and whichever way that they can. And the media needs to do a better job of reporting the positive stories, like your magazine, Afghan Zariza. I was looking at some of your stories, and you're actually covering a lot of what people are doing here that are positive: arts, culture, food. There's a lot that Afghanistan has to offer, and I think that helps balance these negative media reports. But there's challenges in this country that need to be addressed in order for there to be security, economic development, and those are real issues for the Afghan people.
Do you think the Afghans who are settled abroad, do you think they should come back and maybe help in the rebuilding things that are going on in Afghanistan right now? Do you think it's possible? Because considering we have this political and security transition happening now, do you think they should come back and help in the efforts, rebuilding efforts?
I think Afghans who have gone anywhere in the world, if they feel that they want to come back here and this is the country that they want to be part of, that they should be welcome. But I think when Afghans do return, it's the way that they relate with people. There's some people who return and they somehow think that because they've had maybe more education opportunities or have more resources, that somehow they're better than the local people who were here. And I think that's a wrong way of thinking. And I think that Afghans who come back need to think that they have an obligation, I think, to help. And, there's business opportunities here. Afghanistan has given a lot of people many job opportunities, political appointments that they would have never had. And I think they need to appreciate that. But I think people should come here to work with local Afghans, learn something from them, do something to contribute to the country, but realize that the people who are here that don't have another place to go to if there's a conflict are the ones that have the most value.
You have been abroad for a lot of years now, but you're still involved with work in Afghanistan. You do a lot of work in Afghanistan. Can you tell us more about this work you're doing?
I have tried as best as I could being an Afghan abroad. I'm a mother, so I had to do things in a way that I could from where I was. But I think we have the power of change right in our hand, and that's our mobile phone. We can engage with organizations here, business opportunities, volunteer activities from wherever we are. And that's what I've tried to do. I've been on the boards of nonprofit foundation, raising money for programs to help Afghan women and children. I've worked on policy issues, presenting papers to Congress on how funds should be better allocated to get to the Afghan people. I've been involved in some business ventures. I had a television show, and I thought that was a good way to give information to the Afghan people. I've been involved in some arts and culture projects. So I've tried to be involved in ways that I feel passionate about, in whatever way that I can. My work currently is I'm an attorney by trade, so I actually just established a law firm with a local Afghan lawyer. There's a lot of legal issues now in the commercial sector, and I think that's an exciting time for that. I also have some business ventures with different business partners, and what I do is I try to team with local companies who do quality work, and I believe in how they're doing things, and that way I can be part of this country's development, but through my partners.
Recently at the TED Talk, you spoke about rebranding a nation. It's a really interesting concept. Can you elaborate on what this really is?
Yes, first for the Afghans who don't know, what is a TED Talk? TEDx is a global platform for speaking, and the purpose is to share an innovative idea, and they call it an idea worth sharing. So when I was asked to be a speaker, I was thinking, what could I offer as an idea that could help Afghanistan? Not really about what I do, but that could plant a seed that could help the country. So branding, which is really developing a logo for a country with words that would be used to promote the country, whether it's for tourism, trade, and investment promotion, and how to go about doing that process and what benefits it has. So I had seen different efforts being done by countries. For example, India has Incredible India that they use to promote tourism. Turkey has Go Turkey. Spain has Everything Under the Sun. So countries have these brands that they use to promote themselves as a country. So I presented this idea at the TEDx Kabul talk, and I felt that people really appreciated the idea and they had interest in it. They felt it represented them, and I'm hopeful that I can plant that seed of an idea within a national program.
So you're confident that this idea will actually click here? The response has been good so far.
So far from the feedback that I got from my talk, and I just recently met with World Bank young professional staff and I shared the presentation with them, and as young development professionals, they really got what this could do for the country and why it was important, and I got some good feedback from them. And I'm hopeful that I can help seed that idea within one of the national priority programs, and it should be something that includes the people to get their feedback in various ways on what this new brand should be and how it can be used to promote Afghanistan in a much more positive way.
You're also involved with women, you work closely with them. And we have seen the violence against women in Afghanistan is an undeniable reality. How do you think this issue can be addressed by government and by civil society and by other stakeholders?
Of course, this is a very real problem with Afghanistan having gone through so much war. That mentality of conflict has come inside the home, and women have been the victims of that. As an attorney, I believe in strong prosecution against any individual, whether it's against a woman or a man, where somebody's rights are being taken from them, especially in these cases of extreme abuse. However, I don't think we should have one test case where people feel these people should be quickly tried and hung, because that's not good for rule of law. That's not good for promoting justice generally. We have to have a system here that's fair for everyone, including somebody accused of a crime, and that I see as an issue as well. But we need education for women and men. There's a lot of psychological counseling programs that we need for men and women, especially conflict resolution, how people are relating with each other. And then we need the religious community to make stronger statements that this is un-Islamic, that this is not what Islam is about. Because there's many Afghans, they they're Muslim, but they're not learning a lot about what Islam means. And Islam is very clear about this, that being violent and hitting someone unless you're defending yourself is wrong. So we need to send that clear message through civil society, through the government, as well as the religious communities.
We know there are laws, there are a lot of laws in Afghanistan, but the problem is enforcement of laws. When we talk to political experts and other experts, they say there's a lack of political will. That is the problem, which is making the law enforcement difficult. Do you agree with this?
I think that there has been political will. It just is sometimes hard in the enforcement because you have to have the structure and you have to have the administrative procedures. But I think when there is a strong message from the top that certain things will not be tolerated. And for example, if there's corruption and there's found to be corruption, that person should be removed from their office. And you have to send this message strongly so that it makes an example for others that this type of behavior is not tolerated. But we need support for justice sector programs in terms of resources and training. Most of Afghanistan's disputes are settled outside of courts in informal justice. Yeah. And those tribal mechanisms, family mechanisms work sometimes and sometimes they don't. And they can be influenced by money, by sometimes violence as well. So going back, I really believe that people need to really utilize Islam in a more positive way to really just figure out what is right and what is wrong, as a human being. And where government comes in is on the formal enforcement to help address some of the larger issues with corruption that exist at high levels, deal with that, and then help educate people why corruption is wrong, as well as help to provide jobs that give them the salaries that they need to survive. So it's a top-down and a bottom-up approach.
How do you perceive the latest political developments in Afghanistan? We have seen establishment of national unity government. Do you think it's a significant step in bringing together people from different parts, tribes and regions? It's a good, significant step that will bring people together, and this idea will click this, because there are a lot of naysayers who are saying this national unity government may not last too long. So what do you think about these latest political developments?
As an attorney, I feel it's the laws and the process that should be followed, and whatever that determines is what should be followed. I think this last election had its challenges, so the fact that there could be compromise to avoid further conflict was an overall good, even though the process itself was in question. The challenge that I see is the creation of this new CEO role, Chief Executive Officer, that was not in the Constitution and did not have any kind of history in Afghan administrative procedure. So this is going to take leadership between President Ghani and Dr. Abdullah to really work together as visionary leaders to set an example of cooperation and to define the role of these offices so that they can get things done. At the end of the day, if the government is stalled and ministers can't be selected and work can't get done, we lose interest from donors. Whenever you have lack of certainty, then there's less investment, there's capital flight. People take their money out of the country, and that feeds more into insecurity. So I believe having the unity government as a compromise was a positive step, even with the challenges. But now is the time for leaders to work together, because this is an opportunity for Afghanistan to move in a better direction. But if things take too long, it could slip back.
Even 13 years after the international intervention in Afghanistan, there's an overwhelming dependence on foreign aid. Like the economic self-sufficiency is still a distant dream. Why do you think? Do you think it's because of the large-scale corruption we have seen? The money that has come in has not been spent well. What is the reason behind this?
Well, Afghanistan had many challenges, as you know, with the destruction of the infrastructure and the need for laws and the need for programs. I think that Afghanistan has many assets, and in my nation rebranding presentation, I identified some of those which are well known: the strategic location, the natural resources, the minerals. Afghanistan is actually one of the richest countries in the world, and people are surprised. They say, no, it's not. It has a lot of poor people. The GDP is so low. But no, we have natural resources here at a level of value that's much greater than many other countries. So we have, unfortunately, some of the poorest people living on some of the richest land. And what is key? What is key is the right policies by the government now to promote investment in these sectors, there's going to be some corruption, but not to the level where there's lack of competition and unfairness and, you know, certain government officials getting kickbacks, because then people don't want to invest in that kind of country over a long period of time. But I believe, you know, that's the medium and long-term approach, but there's some immediate business opportunities and investments that Afghanistan can promote, but we really need to have even better policies that promote it. And corruption is one of the main issues that foreign investors and even domestic investors have, because they're trying to get business done, and if they're stuck and things can't get done and they feel like they're having to make payments to so many people, they'll leave. So anti-corruption has to be a major focus of this new government in a real way, not just talk. And if somebody's doing something and it's, you know, well known that steps are not being taken, but I believe in a fair process, because many people who actually fought against corruption were the ones who were targeted. So to get rid of them, not let their voices be heard. So we need a fair process, and that can be done by having an international, process to decide those cases. And, you know, we have a lot of assets in this country. They need to be utilized in a way, and the main asset is our people. We have very bright people that can learn very quickly. They have an entrepreneurial mind. If there's investment in education, I already, with this TED Talk, when I went to the World Bank professional meeting, I see these young Afghans who've learned so quickly, and they have such a drive to learn and be part of this country. So I think it's time to let the new generation have more of a leadership role.
As they say, you can take person out of the country, but you can't take person out of the country out of the person. What is the one thing that makes you proud as an Afghan?
I really feel that Afghans, we have a superior appreciation for hospitality. Anywhere we go, I think people, when they meet an Afghan, remember that they brought some food to them, that they invited them to their home. We treat our guests with so much respect. And even as an Afghan, when I come back to Afghanistan, I tell people, you know, to me, going to Afghanistan is a vacation. And they say, vacation? I said, because I feel so welcome here. When I go to people's homes, they want to invite me for lunch, for dinner. And in most places, people are so tired to invite someone. But our country has such hospitable people. Even when you go in the provinces, people want to offer you some tea. And I think that's a big asset that we have as a people, something that I'm very proud of as an Afghan.
Thank you so much for joining us today, and it's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you for
so
having
much.
me on your program.